Hello, hola, welcome back to Witches of the Moon. I am the humble apprentice, your Friday host, and this week we got to choose our own topic, and I chose wands. What material to select, how to select your material, the length, and other elements you might want to consider when selecting a wand. I guess the first question is, do you actually need a wand to practice? And as most hosts say, the magic is inside you, the power is inside you. No, you don't need any tools. But at the beginning, they help you focus your energy and bring you into the frame of mind that is conducive to bringing about the change and directing your energy in the path that you want it to go. So, it is a matter of whether you want to use a wand or you do not want to use a wand. But I will read you a couple of excerpts from a couple of books here. One is Scott Cunningham's Wicca, a guide for the solitary practitioner. The wand is one of the prime magical tools. It has been utilized for thousands of years in magical and religious rites. It is an instrument of invocation. The goddess and god may be called to watch the ritual with words and an uplifted wand. There are traditional woods used for the wand, including willow, elder, oak, apple, peach, hazel, cherry, and so on. And this is an awesome book. Now we go into, this is The Craft by Dorothy Morrison. Folks all over the world associate witches with magic wands. The mind's eye views it not only as a symbol of magical power and essence, but as the instrument necessary to manifest any number of supernatural phenomena in the physical realm. The wand is probably the most important utensil in the witch's toolbox. That's because its magical uses are so widespread. It's an attractant, a repellent, a director of energies. It divides the worlds during circle casting, then connects them again when the magic is done. Simply put, it's the one tool that most serious practitioners just can't and will not do without. And I quote, "What seems most interesting to craft newcomers, though, is that there's more than just one wand in the witch's basic tool assortment. Of course, there is the small wand made famous by storytellers, but there's also a larger wand that closely resembles a staff. Both are equally important in magical work, and both can be used to cast circle. If that's so, then what's the difference? Well, the small wand is generally used to conduct and direct energy. The large wand, however, is better suited towards attracting and repelling energy." So there's a subtle difference, but there is a difference. And yes, you can have more than one wand. I love to make wands. I like the different energies that I get from different materials, different woods and stones and rocks. So there are various questions that you need to ask yourself before you acquire a wand. Like, who is it for? Is it going to be a gift? Is it going to be for you? What type of workings are going to be the focus of the wand? Is it a general purpose wand? Is it going to be for healing? Is it going to be for opening and closing circle? Is it going to be for protection? Is it going to be for warding? Would a staff be better? Are you going to be using it to send energy towards a person or a place? Another thing is, when are you going to need it? Are you going to need it right away? In that case, you might need to buy or purchase or not spend as much time, or if you may not have enough time to work with the tree to get the wand. Okay, where is it going to be used? For example, if you're going to use it where it's very wet and very moist, like a selenite wand, or a wand made of a mineral that is water soluble, will not be recommended. And do you have the time and energy to truly make it your own? Because this is a work of love. In order to make it your own and truly connect with the energy, it is going to take a little bit of time. All of these books give you different methods of gathering the wood and connecting with the trees. And another thing that you need to do, I think you can approach choosing the material in different ways. I will go over various materials and minerals that you can use as a wand. It's not limited to just wood. For example, you can use a selenite wand. It's very good for cleansing and clearing. You can also use a little obelisk made from a material, a mineral, a rock, a stone that holds the properties that you need at that time for the purpose of your working. For example, this is great for divination if you're going to clear the space and work with your tarot. Write some sigils on a candle for divination. There are many different purposes. I mean, it's got a beautiful point that you can definitely use to inscribe on wax or on other soft materials. If you need like the powers of fluorite to focus your mind and your intention, to clear your thoughts, you can use fluorite. Copper is very conductive. If you are attracted to the properties of copper and the properties of the rigid nature of the energies of metal, you can make your own copper wand in various ways. But it's very conductive and it allows your energy to flow, and it has a great direction. And you can also fill it with crystals or herbs and feathers and any element that you want to put into your working. Like I was saying earlier, you have a choice of either finding out the properties of the different woods, of different trees that might be nearby, or you can go and walk to different trees and just sit and meditate or hug them or develop a connection, a rapport by going to that tree on several occasions and figuring out if the energy is what you're looking for. When you're going in your walks, when you go on your run, when you go work out, if you do it outside, or if you have a particular tree that you feel very comfortable around, you can develop a relationship with that tree. And then you can definitely figure out through research what type of tree it is and what are the elements associated with that tree. And you are not tied to only using that tree. You're not limited by just having one wand. You can make various wands for different purposes. So, but when you bring your focus into making that particular wand, just try to figure out what the purpose of that particular wand is. And it may change in time, you know, as you work with a wand. But another great book is The Witch's Guide to Wands, a complete botanical, magical, and elemental guide to making, choosing, and using the right wand, by Gypsy Elaine Teague. Rowan. Rowan is a great wood. It's mountain ash. So some of the information contained here, I don't know if you could see this, maybe a little too bright. Yeah, there's too much reflection. I'll read this to you. So rowan, American mountain ash. Magically, the rowan is a powerful wood. A wand made of rowan will give its user the ability to call to the gods of many different traditions and paths. The rowan wand is excellent for use against enchantment and those using witchcraft against you. It is a great wand for writers and orators when they need to express themselves in a better way. So that's just a little bit of what you can find in here. Another great book is Wand Lore. There we go. The Art of Crafting the Ultimate Magical Tool by Alfarian Gwydion McClare. I'll read you an excerpt about linden. So the key word to linden is attracting. The linden tree, also called basswood or basswood, and lime tree, and Telia. Linden wood is laden with the power of attraction that underlies love, infatuation, musical harmony, and the very fabric of the cosmos, and such forces as magnetism, adhesion, and gravity. Enhancement of beauty, peace, and acts of enchantment generally. It is particularly ill-suited for cursing or any magic that aims at division or separation. So it is light in color and light in the aspects of the workings that it will lend its energy to. So that's another thing that you have to keep in mind when selecting your materials, is what the tree or wood or bush or metal tends to favor, because that will increase the power of your working. There are other elements that you can add to your wand. I like to use my found feathers. So I like to use the feathers that have been released naturally by the birds that I find, because if it came into my path, it was meant for me to use it. Be careful when using feathers or when finding feathers. Be familiar with what is legal to keep in your state. I think bald eagle feathers in the entirety of the United States, it is illegal to have them except if you are of Native American descent. Other things that you can add to your wand are herbs. You can add herbs to your wands by drilling a little hole into the base. Okay, so going over the books that you can use, we can also add the Llewellyn Book of Correspondences by Sandra Kynes. It is a great reference book. There are other reference books for materials to use and what the properties are of each material. There are many materials that you can use. Like I said, you can also use metal. You can make a silver also, silver wand out of a silver rod. It will cost you more than copper, but it is very conductive of energy as well. You can also use by the river driftwood, by the ocean, by the river, where it has already been cleansed of all of its bark, and it is just the center core that is left of the wood. This is oak, and this is my wand. You can decorate it. You can wrap it with copper and with items that mean something to you, that are important to you, that you have connected with, that you have a connection, a rapport with, that bring you that remind you and bring that energy of that space that you were in when you collected that item. Normally I like to add stones that are associated with the chakras to my wands. For example, I like to have a black tourmaline for protection and grounding in most of my wands at all times. I also added in this one lapis lazuli, because in order to direct energy, you need to be connected with your intuition and your third eye and your pineal gland, and you need a lot of focus and intention. In this one, I also place an emphasis on amethyst. Here we have a purple amethyst and a chevron or dream amethyst here. The correspondence book also helps you figure out what crystals, if any, you want to add to your wand to add energy, to add a variety that the wood did not have. Remember, you are creating a tool that you will use during your ceremonies, during your rites. You can customize it and make it as personalized as you want. There are different ways also to manipulate the wood. Some where you take off the entirety of the bark, like this one. There is nothing left of the bark. I took it all off, and then I will sand down the little nubs just so that it's easier to hold and it doesn't get caught on anything on my clothes. Some trains of thought and traditions want to leave the wood as close to its most natural state as possible, and I go from using a completely natural like this cedar wand that I haven't polished or whittled or anything. I have not removed any of the bark intentionally anyway, to a partially removed bark. This is elder, and this is very special, but I really wanted to feel and expose some of the inner core, the natural wood. But I do want to work this section down a little bit more and leave the base with the outer bark. I believe that the less I manipulate the wood or the wand, the more of the power of the original tree that it retains. So I make different ones, so they have a different vibration and different feeling, but you can easily carve out a center hole where you can put some of your herbs like vervain, wormwood, sage, or, you know, some of your feather. Whatever element you feel needs to be added to the wand to make it your own and personalize it for, it could be just for the one working, or it could be the working that you're going to do for the entire year, you know, working with that wand for the entire year or for your entire life. I mean, it is your wand, it is your choice, it is what feels right to you at that particular time in your life. So if you do take off all of the bark and you want to, you can. This is one of my very first wands that I made, and this is a piece of oak that I found as I was walking outside and looking for a wand. So I found this, and I really like the knot or the eye where the wood was, where the there's a different texture. There's the inner core, and so I took off any leftover bark and I sanded it down with a coarse grit sandpaper, and then as it smoothed out I changed to finer grit until I use a very, very fine, like 2000 grit paper. And when I got to that, then I cleaned it, I cleansed it, I anointed it with essential oils, and then I polished it with a wand wax. Make sure that I make from beeswax and coconut oil. But I also had, I believe, sunflower oil for the joy and spring and summer and the power of the sun, the liveliness of the sunflower. And since it is oak, it just seemed appropriate. For willow, I might have used a different oil along with the coconut oil and the beeswax. So I just covered the wand with a light coating of the wand wax, and I let it absorb into the wood overnight. And the next day I took an old t-shirt, one of my son's old t-shirts, because that was important for me, and I hand polished the wood with the wax until it was shiny. And then I let it sit until I was ready to wrap it with the crystals and pearls and elements that I wanted it to have. Okay, so you are not limited to the top side of trees or branches or bushes. You can also use the roots and just understand the difference between the top side and reaching towards the sun, and the shadow side, or reaching towards the core of the earth for the moisture and nourishment and drawing up the minerals and the power of feeding the entirety of the plant through this root system. So there is a lot of power in the roots. I love working with wands made from the root system of trees. So this is a wand of the root of an elm sapling. There are a great variety of trees. There are a few varieties of willow. Now I love weeping willow, but I tried to make a wand out of it and I found it to be very brittle. So it just snapped. It snapped a lot. So then I found out about diamond willow. And diamond willow, it has a very beautiful texture. I don't know if you could feel all these or see these little raised bumps that are up and down the entire wand. Now, if you don't want that unique texture, then you can certainly sand it down and smooth it out. But these little knots here, once I take my tools, I will carve these out and clean them up and then polish them. And they are very beautiful eyes that come up and are very decorative. But they can also be inspirational, and they can look like eyes if you carve them correctly. But the texture is just gorgeous, and it is willow, and willow is a tree of the moon, of water, and it is extremely magical. So yeah, see what variety of the tree that you're looking for you can use, and which one will work better with the method that you're going to make your wand. And there are different colors of wood. This is elder. All right, you can see, I don't know if you could see, there is the outside and then the center core there. That is very light and very pithy, very soft, very easy to carve out. And if you see the color, it is kind of golden and dark. And then, well, we have the willow, which is much lighter in color, and it has a texture. And then we have here linden basswood, and that is also a very light color compared to the elder. And then we go back to comparing elder to oak. I did leave some of the outer bark, the outer bark layer on the wood, so it is much darker, but I've really enjoyed the texture of it and the color difference. And comparing that and this to the root obviously is a little darker since it was underground, and some are light but some are dark. And then once you figure out what tree or wood or material you want to use, then there is a question of length. There are different schools of thought. A lot of the newer schools of thought are like, use what feels natural to you, use what feels comfortable. But there are the stricter guidelines that say that you need to have a wand of the length from the crook of your elbow to the tip of your finger. So that is the length that you need to cut your wand. And then there is other wands that you can make that are much longer. So there is a thickness. It should not be thicker than your thumb. Another thing that you can choose to either follow or do whatever feels comfortable in your grip. You know, bigger boned people, like bigger guys, might want a thicker, more substantial handle. Something that feels comfortable and not fragile in their hands as they hold it. But, you know, a smaller, thinner, lighter wood is also easier to travel with if you want to make something that you want to take, that you can add to your travel altar. So the diameter, I would definitely choose one though that is strong enough so that if you are going to carve the bottom end and put some herbs or crystals inside the wand, that it will not crack as you drill or whittle the center core of the wand. So now that you've decided what tree, what material, where you're going to get it, and how much you're going to need, then the diameter of the tree, now you're going to go and you're going to figure out at what time of the year you're going to harvest this and how much time you're going to spend developing a relationship with the tree. Now, some people believe that you should never cut a branch from a live tree, that it should be something that's going to die or not going to survive or has already died and it's dry. Most of the books that I've read tend to want to develop a relationship with a live being. Therefore, it's a healthy tree that will give you a healthy part of them with a lot of energy, with a lot of power. But they also don't want you to just go and cut down a tree or a large section of the tree that might damage it and hurt it. What they want you to do is figure out the length, make sure that the tree has enough material to give you your wand and your staff, or your wand, your two lengths for the different wands. And that before that you ask permission, that you allow the tree to make the decision whether it can spare and whether it wants to give you a part of them that you may use to work with, that it wants to share its power with you so that you can and do have access to the energies that the tree is going to be connected with, that the tree will draw from the earth, from the universe, and share with you. So in order to build the rapport, build the connection with the tree, most of the books indicate that you need to give offerings to the spirit of the tree or to the tree, spend time with it, meditate under it, or sit with it, hug it, and speak to it, and inform the tree of your need, what it is that you're going to do with the wood that you gather, and if the tree wants to share. And then listen and actually respect the response, whether it be a yes or a no, and thank the tree and give it offerings of. So you come to the tree and you give it offerings before you ask anything. You come and you sit with it and you develop a relationship with it. You can give it water, you can give it fertilizer, you can offer it tobacco. It depends on what type of gift you want to offer the tree or the spirit in the tree, dryad or tree spirit or nature spirit, however you envision the life force of the tree. So once you get your response and it is a yes, then you have to prepare, and you need to make sure that you select a branch that is what they want to give you. One or two, depending on what you need. And also make sure that you do not waste any of the material. And you can make several ones if you would like from the material that it gives you at the appropriate length. Once you develop this relationship, once you find out, yes, it is good, depending on what school of thought you go through, you can either go at the new moon or the full moon to collect your wood. Make sure the tree knows it when you're coming back. You can cleanse the space with incense and then let the tree know what's going to happen. Give the tree time for the spirit of the tree, the energy of the tree, to go down to its roots and protect itself. Then, according to one school of thought, is that you tie a ribbon in the base of the branch that you're going to cut. You cut it, making sure that you read, that you have enough information on how to prune trees so that you do not damage the branch, and that you leave a place where the branch will grow back, so you don't cut it all the way to the base of the tree, unless that's the point and you want that, like when it's a branch that is crossing another branch, and that is something that needed to be cut anyway. I think of those like haircuts, like, I'm helping you. This is benefit for both of us. You can also take some beeswax, natural beeswax, and rub it in the place where you created the cut, to prevent any mildew or mold from growing in that area from moisture. Okay, so we've done that, right? But before you actually go and harvest or cut and collect the branch or branches that you need, you have to understand that there are different times of the year, especially in the northern areas where the trees are not continuously growing. They're going into a state of dormancy. So, for example, this is linden, and I collected it in August, at the beginning of August, and at that time all of the moisture, water, nutrition, minerals was traveling through the bark and up into the leaves, and it was growing and it was actively feeding itself. So at that time I was able to just use my fingernail, and peel off all of the bark, and it comes out in neat strips. Now, just like the wood, it has a grain. So in some areas, some trees, some wood, the bark can be peeled downwards from the thinner area to the thicker area, and other woods need to be peeled from the base, from the bottom, from the thick area up towards the tip of the branches and away. Now there are certain areas, like here, you can see that there is still some fuzziness where the bark did not just peel off easily. It was very attached to the branches, to the wood. So that will be an area where I can just take some medium sandpaper and sand that off, sand that down. But for the most part, over here, all I have to do is sand this little eye down and then take a fine grit sandpaper and sand this center part. That is if you are planning on removing the entire bark of the wood. If you go towards the end of summer or in winter, when the most trees are dormant, they will no longer release the bark easily. At that point, you can soak the branches in water to allow the outer bark or exterior bark to soften and swell up, and then you can easily or more easily remove the bark if you are choosing to remove the bark. If you are not going to remove the entirety of the bark, you can just pick at the sections and then take sandpaper, some coarser sandpaper, and sand down the area that you want to take, where you want to remove the bark. But if you are not going to mess with the bark at all, then you can most definitely just keep it as natural as possible and not modify or change the wood and the wand. Just make sure that you take off any of these larger little eyes that you can clear off, just because that way it's safer for you to handle and it won't poke you, especially if you're in the middle of ritual, or if you're like me and I sleep with a cedar wand. You can also add charms. Like in this one, I have a little turtle, because this one was a very like ocean and water centered or focused wand. But you can also add, you know, little charms, any kind of little charms here. We're getting close to Halloween over here. Samhain is coming up in a few weeks, so we're trying to get into the spirit of the season. And well, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I hope this has given you a little bit of information on what you need to look at when selecting a wand for yourself or your next wand. So thank you very much. I am the Humble Apprentice here on Witches of the Moon. Have a good evening and a great weekend. Blessed be.